So you want to know how to make an aircraft mod. Well, it's extremely straightforward and extremely simple, and this is only going to go over the basics of getting it into the game. So you have your asset here, and it's either going to spawn really tinily, or if you made it right or got it from Boris, then it's going to be the right size. What you want to do is make sure that you keep this helo's position at 000 and scale 111, and then you want to create an empty game object. Oh, there's already one there. You create an empty game object, and then parent the asset to that game object. Name that game object whatever you want. I'm going to call it helo. And then make sure that this is still 000. And then this game object is what you're going to be manipulating. So scale it up, move it over to where you need it. So once you have it moved and scaled right, weird thing with the seat shit, I'd recommend aligning the fake seat with the top of the real seat, because the player sinks into the seat when you spawn in game. So if you have it moved up to the player's ass like that, you will clip through the seat, and it's weird. So anytime I'm making an aircraft, I always like to compensate for that adjusted height. So if you think that the player's too high, just reminder, instead of, being up here, you're actually going to be down here when you're in game. So just keep that in mind. Now that you have the helo positioned correctly, or your aircraft positioned correctly and scaled correctly, what you want to do is make it an asset bundle. So drag this into your custom aircraft folder if you have one, and then click new. You click out of it and you have to go back and click new again. It's a weird thing with Unity. And then call it whatever you want. I'm gonna call it helo. So now's a good time to clone the Git. So I'd go to Google, and go to the modding website, the F117 mod, and then click source code in the top right. Click here and copy it, and then open up Visual Studio and clone a repository, paste in the link, change the thing, add a new folder if you need to, or add a new folder and call it whatever you want. I'm gonna call it helo repo. I'd recommend naming the folder so you know which one it is, because having custom aircraft T2, custom aircraft template, that's hell. I hate that. And every time I try to open up a a custom aircraft project, I go through all of them, and it's impossible to tell the difference. So please, for your sake, name your folders. Name shit. Just makes it easier in the long run. And once it's done cloning, takes a second. Visual Studio isn't the fastest. You open up the SLN, open up all your folders, and then go to what I like doing first, or what you have to do first. All of this is going to fuck up. All of this is going to be red. So what you need to do is you need to go to your references and then click add reference. And then if you've done this before, all of your references that you need to add are going to be here. So you just spam the checkbox and then click OK. And then it'll replace all the references, and all the fucked up shit will go away. If you haven't done that before, you have to individually read what references are fucked and then add them. It's a pain in the ass, but it doesn't take too long. So the first thing you should do is go to aircraft info and then change the Harmony ID. This is very important to change the Harmony ID. So sid.helo, and then change the aircraft name to whatever the fuck. I'm gonna have to redo that, but I think it's like I think it's called the Zero Personal Helicopter or something. I can't remember. But yeah, we're gonna keep that. This shit will change later. So what you want to do is you want to go to your mod loader, and usually it's one of the first steps you do, but I always do it later because I always forget about it. Go to your mods, or no, mod creator, new project, and then this is where you actually create the project. So Hilo, and create the mod, and then you go, you wait for it to create, and then you open the project. SteamVR starts when you start the mod loader. I hate that. It's annoying, but it's helpful like 2% of the time. March, please fix. So you want to go to build, or no, project, and then Hilo properties, or the project's name properties, and then go to build events, and then make sure that it's a bug with the mod loader. You get rid of the / modloader.exe. Just get rid of that. And then you want to copy this. And then you want to go to your main code, like the cloned repo. Go to its project. And then go to build events. And then paste it in there. And then what that'll do, that'll tell Visual Studio anytime you build it to copy the build.dll into this file path, and it'll call it hilo.dll. So you want to go to application, and then change the assembly name and default namespace. I'm gonna call it hilo. And then you want to copy these, and then you want to go to every single, there's a better way to do this, but I just do it like this. So as you do it, things are going to start messing up. That's because any references that you have to another class that's not in the same namespace will no, like it can't find that because it's not in the same namespace. So think of it as trying to play hide and seek with someone who isn't in the same house. So yeah, you're not gonna find them because they're not in the same house. So go through and replace all of these, and make sure that all of them actually saved and actually replaced all. And because if it doesn't, then it'll fuck up and do bad. Okay, so they're all replaced. Yeah, so what you want to do is now you want to go to the actual folder. You want to go to the actual folder in my mods that is created when you create the mod. And then you would go to builds, and then you'll see your info.json. You want to add a picture to here that relates to the mod you're making. I don't really have a picture at the moment, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a new instance of File Explorer. I'm going to go to my pictures, and then just eeny, meeny, miny, mo a picture. It needs to be a PNG, just VTOL shit. Rename it to something that you'll remember, and then you don't need to do annotation 2020 0522 010 714. Just rename it to like Hilo pick, or whatever whatever aircraft you're making, and then I just usually follow it with image. You want to go back to aircraft info, and then change the preview PNG file name to Hilo, or to whatever you called it. So I called it Hilo pick. And then go to your, yeah. So what you want to do now is just build your thing. So just hit Control B. It'll build in Visual Studio, and if it succeeded, which it should, if it doesn't, use all of the errors up here to like see what failed. But if it succeeds, as it should, if you go to your builds folder, you should see a DLL that popped up with the name that you changed. If it doesn't, make sure that you went to a project, go back to your properties, go back to build events, and make sure that this is the right file path. So in aircraft info, which is, you're going to spend most of your time in aircraft info when you first make a mod, because you're tweaking things, stuff. So you go back to Unity, and then here's where you'd apply all of your textures. This doesn't have any textures because I literally just started making it. So it doesn't have any textures, but here's where you'd add a folder with the material, like fill all of the materials and shit in that folder. Like if I go to the F-16th mat, it has the material, there's the materials, and then all of the shit here. So you add all the materials to it, and then make sure that Hilo is added to an actual asset bundle, and then go back to your aircraft info, and then change the aircraft prefab name, keep.prefab, to whatever this is called. So when you dragged the main game object down into the project file here, whatever showed up, you want to change the aircraft prefab name to whatever this is named. So it's just called Hilo. So keep hilo.prefab. And then in Unity, I'm going to set that to none. You want to just build the asset bundle. So make sure that the Hilo is set to an asset bundle, not the thing with an arrow. If you set the thing with an arrow to the asset bundle, then it'll fuck up. The thing that says prefab asset here, you want to make sure that that's set to the asset bundle, and then assets, build asset bundles. And then it'll take a second because it's Unity, and depending on your asset bundle settings, it's either going to take a long time or not very long at all. If you changed the asset bundle settings to like shrink and compress the asset bundle, then it's going to take a bit. If you didn't, then it won't. So once you can actually interact with the Unity menu again, or the Unity UI again, you can, like, the asset bundle's done building, and then you want to go to asset bundles under assets, or go to assets and then, you know, open up asset bundles here, and then you should see give it a bit. For some reason, the first time you build an asset bundle, Unity takes a long time to actually update the asset bundle, but if you go to Show and Explorer, it will show up here. Like, all of the asset bundles that you've built will show up here, and there it is. So it takes a bit to pop up, but it will. So if it doesn't for a while, don't panic. Like, don't freak out. It will show up eventually. You want to go to your builds folder, and then drag the Hilo asset, the only one that's not 1 kilobyte. Drag that into your builds folder, you want to copy that name and then change the aircraft asset bundle name to helo asset, or whatever your asset bundle is named. So it looks for the right asset bundle. So now in Unity, what you want to do is go to your helo main game object, and then the position, make sure that this is the actual prefab, or the actual asset is still 000 scale 111, and change the helo parent, like the parent game object, copy its position. So y position is negative 0.86, or whatever. Just copy it, and then in player spawn, change the coordinates to whatever you have it set. So if it has a decimal, make sure to add the F after it to change it to a float value. And the scale, set the scale to whatever you have the scale set to. So this should this will change the shit. Also, make sure to get rid of the rotation, because Maya's default axes, unless you build it in the wrong direction. Like if you build the front of your aircraft facing the front orthographic view in Maya, it'll be facing the right way. In Blender, if you made your aircraft asset in Blender, good luck. And also, you're gonna have to either turn it around or turn it 90 degrees. It's just Blender things. So make sure to get this is your rotation, and this is your location, and this is your scale. Make sure that these are the same as your aircraft in Unities. And once that is done, you want to copy this entire thing, just these 3 lines. So you want to copy those and go to AI setup, and then paste those into over top of the old one. And what that'll do is that'll for multiplayer, the aircraft that spawns in multiplayer will be the right position, rotation, and scale. So yeah, that step is important for multiplayer. So if something, like when you're playing multiplayer and you're testing it out for multiplayer for the first time, and it's like backwards and like invisible, it's because it's you didn't replace the AI setup shit. So back to aircraft info. The Unity mover file name and the AI Unity mover file name. So what you want to do is you want to save the main Unity scene, and then create a new scene, delete the directional light in the main camera, and go to assets, and then search FA26, or just FA. Yeah, just search up FA, and then the FA26B, you want to drag that into your hierarchy and drop it. And it should show up with the FA26B. So you want to hit unpack prefab, and then you select the get rid of the or just hide all of the grid and stuff, screen fader image, and quad. So grid, screen fader image, and quad are all parts of the MFDs, except for screen fader image, and you want to just click them and hide them. I usually also just hide A Fighter 2 because it gets in the way, and the only parts of the cockpit that are in A Fighter 2 are the throttle and sticks. In those you don't really need to move unless you need to move them. So what you want to do now is go back to your assets, go to your custom planes, and then drag your helo or your aircraft asset into the hierarchy and parent it to the FA-26B. I move it to the top for ease of access. So then for the FA-26B, you want to, in your assets folder, if you've done this before, you should have Object Builder, the C# script. Go under FA-26B and then drag Object Builder into the FA-26B scripts. So make sure to check renset save and renset load. And then paths, you want to go to builds and then copy this. And then copy your the file path. And then make sure to add another backslash and then call it whatever you want the search file to be named. So I'm gonna call it helo positions dot surge. Make sure to add the dot surge and then click enter. And then if you say, let's just take the HSI, or not the HSI, the attitude sphere, and I'm just gonna set it as custom. If you've done this before, you already have the custom thing set up, and then rotate it, scale it, move it in like that, scale it up a bit more. Make sure when you're moving the attitude sphere, you're moving it from center, because otherwise it will do the weird. So you do that, and then that's just to populate it, just to make sure that that you did do it correctly. You want to go back to FA-26B, and then you would click save. It'll automatically do it. It'll automatically move this. What I should have done is I should have told you to drag FA-26B into that GS, but it automatically doesn't when you hit save, so you just hit save. And then here you should see helo positions.surge. Make sure it's populated. It is. And then you have your 5 things that you need for the mod to work. So make sure you have 5 things in here. Info.json. You want to open up info.json and then DLL file. Make sure that the line that says DLL file, make sure that that has the right name, helo.dll. Make sure it has the right name, the same name as the DLL file, or the mod will not show up in your mod list. First, you want to go here and change the name to whatever you change the search file name to. So I changed it to helo positions.surge. Make sure that is what I changed it to. You can just copy it from here. And then Nighthawk positions AI.surge. You can just leave that out for now. It won't mess anything up until you get into like the multiplayer implementation part, which is like the very last steps. So I completely forgot to do this. This is a very important step. Very, very important step. You want to comment out all of this. Now, it's best if you already have, if you've made a mod that already does all that. So you just go to a mod that already has all of that done, and then you just copy the entire player spawn. Or, well, not the entire player spawn. You want to do from, or no, you want to go from here up to this public static void. If you haven't, you're going to have to individually comment all this stuff out. But I usually just steal player spawn patches from my other mods. So you're going to want to comment out, make sure you comment out setup G limit and setup, or these aren't in the base one. I added those. Setup engines and create control surface. So you're also gonna have to comment out everything that's in green here. You want to comment out. Get rid of setup hard points. Keep setup hard points. But everything else you want to comment out. You want to build it. Should succeed. So we're back here. Go to mods, scroll down, load it, and then it should show up now. So it should show up with the name. You put the aircraft name in aircraft info, then the aircraft description, it'll show up there, and then the picture will show up there. The picture doesn't need to be an exact square, but VTOL will force it to be a square. So if I load the good example is the A10. So if I load the A10 and go back here, you can see how the preview picture is like squished. It will squish it to be a square. So the picture doesn't need to be a square for it to work. It could be whatever resolution you want, but it will squish it to be a square. So we're going to load this. And then go to free flight 1. And if things don't null, it will, just be the it will just be the aircraft that you put in without the FA26B, but something nulled. This is a good example of where to use the player.log, and I will show you how to use it and what to look for. Yeah, so you want to open the player.log, and then Control F, search for null ref, click down, find next, and you'll see the ones that say VR keyboard.awake. Those are fine, those are normal, don't worry about those. It's the one that does not, it's the ones that do not say VR keyboard.awake. So you'll see at helo.aircraftsetup.setup hardpoints. So it's telling me in the aircraft setup class, it's nulling at setup hardpoints. So if I go to aircraft setup hardpoints, so you want to go to your player spawn and just comment out setup hardpoints. If a function nulls and you haven't touched your aircraft setup, then you just comment it out in player spawn, except for disable wing flex, scale nav map, change RWR icon, and wing fold. You also want to comment out setup RCS. So when you're debugging, do one thing at a time. So do one fix at a time and build it, try it out, build it, try it out. It's tedious, but it helps you learn what's messing up and what nulls look like and how to find where and what's messing up. So you want to build it again, and then once it's built, you just test it out again. It's tedious, but This is really the only time that you need to do this like constant back and forth of testing, building, testing. After you get the aircraft in game and stable, all it is after that is just making the cockpit and making things look nice and look pretty, which in the modding community isn't necessary.
So back in VTOL, scroll down, load your mod. And there you go. So as you'll see, it's floating. It's floating up in the air like that because I haven't, used Unity Mover to raise the landing gear to actually put that on the ground. You're gonna see the hook is also still there. There's a thing in loadout config, I think it is, that adds the hook turret. I'll show you later where it is and how to comment it out and stuff to get rid of it. But if we load into the game, you should see that just your aircraft is spawned. The FA-26 is not there. It's the right size and in the right position. And what you moved in Unity Mover is where it should be. Now, a cool thing that Unity Mover can do is I need to actually get up and walk over to my PC because I just have a chair in the middle of my room that I use for VTOL. But if I walk over to my PC, say I wanted to move the engine start switches, just the left engine start switch up to the panel where it should be. Move it there. Go to FA26B, save the surge file, and then when back in VTOL, if I pick up my controllers again, my tracking is going to be a bit weird because I'm at my desk. Go to the radio menu, recenter my seat, and you see it's not there. But on my keyboard, making sure that I have the VTOL window focused, if I hit L on my keyboard, it'll move the switch to where I put it. And it's, interactable, it's fully interactable. That didn't move for some reason. I don't know. It's because I didn't set the whole panel to custom. But a good thing to just get in the habit of is marking these big panels. Like I think this is called dash panel right. It's just marking these big panels as custom and moving all of its individual parts, because something like this, like what happened with the engine start switch, could happen if you don't mark the big panel as custom. It's like parent as custom. But yeah, you get the idea. So now's the part of the process that's the most fun. The most fun is creating the cockpit. For my aircraft, it doesn't really have a cockpit, but I have to like kind of hodgepodge some stuff together to get it, looking kind of like it's supposed to. But for the time being, that's the workflow of creating a new aircraft, getting it into VTOL, getting it working, and putting them on the right track to where all it is just creating the custom cockpit.